start in about a month, and then an update on his injury that hit him off.
Yeah, no, I thought, again, Alex had been training really well the last 2 weeks, and you just saw this moment coming to a head. So I think when preparedness meets opportunity, you get a performance like that. I thought he was lights out today. And then as far as his injury, I haven't spoken to the trainers yet, so we'll know more this week.
You mentioned the preparedness and opportunity. It seemed like Diego, when those balls came to him in the box, he was just ready and was able to bury him. Is that just his mentality and confidence at the moment? He's just kind of primed.
Yeah, and I think again with Diego, I think when he got here, he was always a player that would make the pass or the pass before the assist, and really unlock teams. And again, when we're not scoring goals, the important thing is that he's getting into areas where I think in that second goal, the ball gets fizzed across, and if Diego's not in that spot, those plays don't happen. And so just being opportunistic, being in great positions, and again, that's what everyone saw. What I saw was a guy that wanted to fight for the team. I saw a guy that was making slide tackles, double back pressing. I saw a guy that was just engaged and wanted to win the game tonight. To put 2 goals on top of that, I think speaks volumes of where he's going with his career. And we had one of the national team assistant coaches in town for the last couple of days, and spent some time with him, and he obviously talked to Diego, and I think it was an inspired performance, and I think he sees what lies before him if he keeps in this form. So I couldn't be happier for Diego Luna.
In soccer, we know 2-0 is the most dangerous lead. What was the talk in the locker room so you guys wouldn't give up 2 goals?
Yeah, well, I said to the guys that we've just got to we've got to come out of the gates making sure we're putting pressure on the ball, because again, there's a psychological point to that where you think, okay, we have 2-0, let's drop off. And so I think the guys up front did a good job of putting pressure on the ball. We went to a back 5 with probably 10 minutes left in the game to kind of solidify, with just to make sure that our pivots who were starting to tire a little bit weren't chasing into corners in a low block, and so that back 5 kind of solidified that. But I think the guys coming into the game did a really good job as well, and I think that's an important piece of holding on to a lead. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything, but I think the mindset, when you haven't gotten the results in the last couple games, it's just a willingness and a desire not to concede. Defending set pieces well against a really big team. Rafa coming up trumps Larry late in the game making a save. I mean, you need everything to not, so that was a collective team performance tonight.
And then back-to-back games with Jesus getting minutes. What have you seen in his development so far?
You got this young man continues to impress. I think he's very calm on the ball. He makes good soccer decisions. His technique is tidy. He's got an eye for goal, and he just needs opportunities. Again, there was a moment where we thought maybe, do we start him this week? And the truth is he's going to be a very good player. There's no 2 ways about it. But how we bring him along and what kind of environment, right? After 2 performances and results that didn't go our way, is this the right time to bring in a young player who's got tremendous upside? So you'll be seeing a lot more of Jesus, and he continues to impress with every training session and with every minute he gets on the field on game day.
Pablo, congrats on the win. How do you, as a coach, evaluate a performance like Diego today, especially under pressure to get a win?
For me, it's this all-around game. We're not a team that can have one player cheat. We need 11 dogs on defense, and we need 11 brave players on offense. And if I frame it like that, I think he was that player on both sides of the ball. Like his relentless pressing, his back pressing, his tackling, like those things are not for Diego Luna. Those things are for the team, right? Him showing up in the box is not for Diego Luna. That's what we need as a team. And so when I look at his performance tonight, I look at a selfless performance, a performance for the team. And if we keep getting those performances for Diego Luna, things will change really quickly for the group and Diego Luna.
So, speaking of that, in the mentality being progress thing, what do you take away from this result in terms of the team mentality? You talk a little bit about it, and what's the next step moving forward in this season?
Yeah, well, again, when you're not getting results, I'll tell you what happens. The players don't have a lot of confidence, right? They start to have doubt as to what we're doing as a group. So results validate the work that we do during the week. So this week, where we typically do about 60% tactics, about 40% competing, we did 98% competing and 2% tactics, right? And so you think about how because again, mentality doesn't come about from someone speaking, a coach speaking. Mentality comes about creating a competitive environment and those guys going at it on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's where the secret sauce is, And so tonight our objective was to get in behind their outside backs, right? How are you going to do that? We have a 9, we have 2 10s, and we have wing backs in the attack. There's a million ways to do that. That's the objective. You guys go out and show me how you're going to do that. And they did that nonstop in the first half, right? So I'm going to double down on the competitive piece, because when we're a team that competes like that, that just doesn't let teams walk down the middle of the field, that battles for every play, that's scrappy, that's when mentality is shown, Not when things aren't going well in offense and you hang your head and hands go up in the air. That's not mentality, right? So we're going to double down on that next week. And we have another tough opponent, but it's definitely moving in the right direction. And I guess to answer your question, like how can I help, is to make sure that environment is competitive on Tuesday and Wednesday, so that mentality never wanes.
Pablo, great victory, great win today, great first half. Were you at all disappointed that you did not need to make 4 subs at half today?
Never done that before, and I hope I never have to do that again.
Like, maybe contrast the two. The first half, a lot of pressing, a lot of pressure. The second half, were you at all concerned? It seemed like there was a lack of intensity for a little bit, or is that kind of the plan?
No, I think we wanted to get after the ball in the first 5-10 minutes of the second half to make sure that they knew we weren't dropping into a low block. I think, again, if they're just going to keep the ball moving side to side, it's not really threatening to us. Like, there's no need to open yourself up when you have that 2-0 lead. We want to be aggressive, but we want to be smart about it. And so the way the players solved that in the second half, I thought was brilliant, right? And the way we helped as coaches is going into a back 5 late in the game to make sure their 8s running, don't pull our pivots out into wide channels because they're starting to wane, and we just kept a nice 5. The pivots were able to get after it. So it wasn't concerning, given that they didn't really pose that much of a threat in front of goal. Like, so you have to choose. Do you want that real estate, or would you rather protect this real estate? And given that the last, whatever it's been, few games, we haven't defended our box well, the guys completed the task.
LA, reigning MLS Cup champ, but they don't look like the same team as they were last year, and their focus probably is on Tigres and CONCACAF Champions Cup. What can you take? Can you take a lot from this game, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question, because really the way we talk about our team is it's us against us. When we're engaged, when we have the right mindset, when we're expressing ourselves, when we're fighting the fight, it doesn't matter who the other team is. Like, we don't choose who comes to step on the field, but we do choose how we respond to adversity, respond to difficult moments, how we approach the game the right way. And so I don't look at the opponent. I rarely do. I look at our actions, our nonverbals, our commitment, our pressing, our attacking. So given the last few games, this was a very, very good performance against any team.
Pablo,
Mikey,
congrats on the win.
Thanks.
We had a lot of rotation early in the season due to fixture congestion, and then maybe from our side, maybe somebody wasn't insisting that they be the one who start.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see tonight from the sideline, you and your staff, from your outside backs that we haven't seen in a bit?
Yeah, I know. I thought it was really good. I thought those guys did a great job, and coming off of two tough results, there was also this feeling like, well, so and so hasn't been performing at the highest level. Let's make a change, and I feel like that's us brushing off responsibility, and our jobs is to create a cohesive, safe environment where they can make mistakes. Because if you keep rotating, then they start to look over their shoulder. They think that I can't make a mistake, and now they play tight. But I think that back four tonight was the best performance we've had all year. And again, I think the way they kept the ball out of the net, the way they minimized chances, the way they stepped up to block shots, the way they put out fires, I think speaks for itself.
Agree. And not to single someone out, but Vera played over 90 minutes on a yellow card against.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that, because I'm thinking the same thing you are. That's growth. That's growth. Yeah.
And just so in his head, for someone that has had maybe a propensity for a bad yellow in the past, what have you and the coaching staff been working on this offseason, but also what did you say to him at halftime so that you could leave him out there?
And I think, again, where this coaching staff comes in, I think James and Olave, being Colombian, has a really good connection with Vera. And it's been a personal project of his to mentor him, right? To teach him about the different consequences of decisions. And he works with them every single day. Video every day, mentorship, life every day, how to be a better pro every day. And so really credit to Olave for that's a tough one. There's a lot of guys you can mentor but he's a tough guy. And what makes him so unique is that he's a fiery guy and he's not scared of anything. But to be able to get a yellow card early in the game and maintain a very good level and not get a red card, again, this is growth. This is growth.
Hey, Pablo, just to go back to something you mentioned earlier about Jesus Pereira. He came in today for Diogo, and you mentioned earlier that you thought about maybe starting him this week.
Mm-hmm.
Who would he be replacing in the starting 11 if he were to have started?
Well, he also plays up front, right? So last year in college he was a 9, and so he can play up front. And whilst he doesn't have the top end speed, you'd think you'd need to get in behind. His movement and timing of his movement is very, very good. And so the way we were thinking about it was maybe Jesus up front with Diego and Diogo underneath, and then the three of them speak the same technical football language. So it looked a little bit different than it did today, but that's definitely a position where he can play.
Okay, and then another question that might not be your specific field, but the transfer window's closing soon. Is there any news of any signings or rumors that you can give us?
Trust me, I'm with you. We've been working hard to identify players. The one thing, especially when you're looking internationally, there's a lot of things that have to align themselves, right? There's got to be a willing player. There's got to be a club willing to part with the player. And then obviously personal terms on the player. So there's a lot of things that have to align, and this is why I think it's taken a bit of time. It's not from a lack of trying to get there, but again, as a club, we've identified that we need 1 or 2 more attacking players to really make this thing whole and create a real competition up front to drive this group forward. So we're looking. I wish I could give you there's nothing yet. But there is work being done that hopefully, we'll get 1 or 2 before the close of the window.
Diogo was really good in the build-up to the first goal, but he did have that chance where he was in behind one-on-one with the keeper, and that's got to bug a guy like him. How do you address that with him? If you do, what do you say?
Yeah, you know what? I don't really address that, because the player knows, he feels it a lot worse than I do. I want him to score that. And you imagine for him, he's chomping at the bit to get on the score sheet. And, because he's doing a lot of great things between the boxes. It's just that final piece. And Listen, he's got experience. He's played on some clubs that have been in Champions League games. Like, he knows how important those moments are. But again, I'm grateful that we have great teammates that cover up for that moment and by scoring goals and making plays.
Flipping he and Diego, that puts Diego in a position to score that second goal, and also I thought Diego and Petratus were combining well. So did you like what you saw as far as that? Is that something you probably see more of?
Yeah, I think, and the thought of mine before going to the game is if it didn't look really good, we can always switch Diego and Diogo back. Because what Diogo does is on the chance he got, he makes really good runs behind the defense. He really does. So I think those two players are interchangeable, which I think is a good thing, maybe to throw, because their styles are a little bit different, where Diego's more crafty 1v1, where Diogo's more of a combination type player. So I think moving forward, again, it'd be silly to change it now, but just something to have in the back pocket where both those guys can play both positions is really cool.
Anyone on Zoom? I'm in. Should be good.
Good.
Thanks, Pablo.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.